The feeling today is to try and keep it really simple so that all of us can commune together in some way. And the rule is that if I lose you, because I know that sometimes I start sounding very academic or abstract or difficult. So the rule is you stop me there. Doesn't matter, break my flow. I don't care about those things. So let's keep things as simple as possible. And if I'm becoming complicated, you tell me, okay, stop. Where are you going? Okay. So we are in Satsang. Let's start from there. We've come to Satsang. Why have we come to Satsang? What will we get in Satsang? What is Satsang for? Why do we come? For the truth. Sat means truth. Sang means company of. So to gather together in the truth. Now the truth. You can hear me at the back? The truth. So Satsang, that is the literal meaning. To come together in the company of truth. But truth, you can open a book and get. The truth is like, oh, the world is like this. Oh, up there is the sky, down here is the earth. You see? So, if the truth was like that, we could have opened a book, and there are books that have been written thousands of years ago. We have the English versions in the library at the back. We could read those books and we could get the truth, no? So what is this different type of truth for which we have to gather? Is there a different type of truth? Or is this like one of those classrooms, geography, algebra, those classrooms, and I will take you through some concepts because you don't want to read the books, and a teacher is there to spoon feed the concepts, and then you will understand. Is that what is meant to happen? And often I've said that if you're understanding too much, then I'm getting a bit concerned. This is a reverse classroom. You see? If you're understanding a lot, you see, I got this, then what is happening is that you're just adding to the concepts in your head about spirituality. So you're becoming a spiritual encyclopedia maybe, but you're not coming to the truth that the attempt is to try and show you. So it is nothing to do, well, not nothing, maybe a few pointers you hear which appeal to you, and those you resonate with even intellectually, but you use them to come to a deeper realization. With me so far? Anyone already losing me? So what is that deeper means? It is not something that you can conceptually fathom. You cannot say, God is everywhere. That is the truth. You see, so I've got the truth. Aham Brahman Asmi. I am that Brahman. You see? So you may say, okay, but as just a concept, it is just like any other concept. You see? You may take, there are these special instructions which were kept in secret and only shared when the disciple was fully ripened. Then the master would come and say, the ultimate reality is Aham Brahman Asmi. I am Brahman itself. But if the disciple is just understanding conceptually, they'll say, yeah, I already read this. Or I had a feeling that this would be the truth. That's it. I know, I am Brahman. You see? So is that the truth? Now you got the truth. That is the truth I have to offer you. So the nature of the truth that we are pointing to in Satsang, one of it is that we cannot fathom it, we cannot conceptualize it in this way. At best, these words can be like pointers. They may point to something, but they themselves do not capture any truth. So if this is not the truth that we are here gathered for, any words that I say will also be nonsense. They will not ultimately be the truth. So it is not something that we can encapsulate. It is ineffable in that way that we cannot understand it with words. Then you may say that the truth, I want to have an experience of it. I don't want to understand anything. I want to come to an experience of the truth. But there also we have a problem. Because the first rule of Vedanta is what? What comes and goes is not real. Everything that you perceive is unreal. And everything that comes will go. And that which comes and goes is not real. You see? So if the experience is going to come, then the experience is going to go. You see? There will not be an experience which comes, which does not go. Every experience is a perception, so it will come and go, and therefore it cannot be the truth. So now we are in big trouble, aren't we? Because idea is gone, experiences also gone, even the highest spiritual experiences with lights and fireworks and everything, you see, that may come, that we may call a spiritual experience, also comes and goes, and therefore is not ultimately the truth. And where does that leave us? Now we may say that, yes, I know this. It is the discovery of something which is not phenomenal. It is not perceivable, which does not come and go. The self is already here, God is already here. God does not come and go. So the realization of the self, the realization of God, must be something which is beyond the realm of understanding and the realm of perception. When we start from this point, that is when we truly start satsang. You see, then that's when it stops being a discourse, a spiritual discourse, where we are bouncing off spiritual ideas and doing vad vivad, which means arguing about the validity of notions and things like that, into a deeper experience which is beyond phenomenal. So, can we report from our life, and in fact we must be able to report right now, what is our insight into this which is beyond perception, beyond phenomena? Is there something like that? What can you report on this? Is there something like that? Anything? Beyond thinking and beyond qualities, which means the saguna nature means that which has attributes. So you can say, what is this? Phone. How do you tell it's a phone and not a microwave? It has a particular quality, a set of qualities. It has a shape, a color, some branding is there, logo. You see? You look at those qualities and you're able to determine the nature of it to say this is a phone. And even if I told you, no, it's a pair of spectacles, you will say, okay, I have to stop coming here. Ananta is becoming foolish and he's losing his mind. So you look at a set of attributes which are called gunas, and you are able to mentally conclude that this is a phone, and then you can conclude the nature of it, that you can receive calls, you can make calls. So that is the nature of the phenomenal. How do we come to the non-phenomenal? Then you set aside the phenomenal. Okay, very good. Then what happens? So some of you heard of the Neti-neti? The not this, not this. You see, it's like a meditative process where you sit and say, I perceive the world doesn't perceive me. You see? So I cannot be this world. I perceive the body does not perceive me. Therefore, I cannot be the body. I am aware of thoughts. The thoughts are not aware of me. I cannot be my thoughts. You see? So like that you keep going, not this, not this, not this. You come, where do you come? So you take out all that is phenomenal. Is there anything left? Remember that your mind will give you dark, empty space. Here's the nothing that you wanted. You see? But you are perceiving even that. Even that is a quality, darkness. Both darkness and brightness, light and dark, both are qualities. Keep that aside. Then able to follow? So we are now in the adventure into the truth, the nature of which is much more strange and absurd than we imagined. When we remove for a moment our phenomenal experience, our perceptual experience, and our conceptual understanding, then where does that leave us? Is there anything now? Okay, we're breaking the deal. I'm going to wake you all up now. I know you're contemplating. Contemplation and losing track can sometimes be very close to each other. Okay, who can do a quick recap? Where are we right now?
So your guidance to us was to turn our attention inwards and then go through the neti-neti and try to sort of unpeeling the layers of starting from the external and then stripping it away and saying that that's external, not aware of me, and I'm aware of it.
And because we determine that conceptual understanding and what we perceive does not live up to the standard which the Vedantic sages have said. Which is, they've said that which comes and goes, that which is perceived, is not real.
We want to come to what doesn't come and go.
It doesn't come.
And also what's the subject. Eventually we want to come to a sense of, at least a sense that I am there before things I observe, and I want to find out what that one is. So then start with you pointed us to stripping away the various layers, external, then body itself, sensations of body, then could be breath, could strip away the breath, strip away thought, and then eventually you're just left with in that sense of existence, which can't be stripped away, because that's sort of that defines your entire existence. I mean, it's the only thing you know. I mean, it defines your entire waking state.
Very good. Let's pause here. This is very good. So, everyone agrees with him? Agrees with him through your own insight, or just because he sounds like he's saying the right thing? He said we take everything out, okay, and we arrive at a point where we come to a sense of existence, a sense of being. Is this correct? Whatever I said is all hocus pocus. Huh? Is it true like that? Not sounding very... Yes, it is like that? Sure? So, are you perceiving this sense of being? Not perceiving it. You see, because if it was being perceived, then you would have to throw it out along with the rest of perception. You see? But is it purely unperceived? Is it purely, so if I say, why have people called it a primordial vibration, a sense of being, I am? If it has a sense sounds like a quality to me. Doesn't it? It's not a sheer absence, it is a presence. So, this is when the absurdity starts. Because this Atma, okay, and we will go slowly through all the terms if you want. This being, the presence, Atma, Holy Spirit, Sadguru presence, intuitive heart, all of these words we may use synonymously. But it is impossible to determine the nature of it as perceivable or unperceivable. Whether it is Saguna or Nirguna, we cannot say, or we may say that it is both. So when I ask you to try and stop being, what happens? You can't stop being because you find or notice something, isn't it? Are you with me, everyone? When you try to stop being, don't be right now. Literally, like innocently, don't worry. You see, don't be, don't exist. Do it for 1 second. Don't exist. He succeeded. So, unless you go into deep sleep state, it is not going to happen. I didn't know he had that siddhi also. Inquiry is usually when you don't have that siddhi, but you can fall asleep at will. No? So, but when you are awake, there is a wakefulness, there is a beingness, aliveness, consciousness. So, are you noticing this, or are you just agreeing or speculating? Because that is the whole difference. Yeah. To come,
noticing but not perceiving.
yes. You see? So that sounds very woo-woo to me. What do you mean? Take the mic.
I notice that I am.
How do you notice without perceiving? Take the mic. Mic is with you. What do you mean by notice but not perceive? I notice the cup, so I perceive it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the cup is it's an object.
Okay.
I notice that I am. But if I let my mind look for something, I won't find anything. So I can leave the mind.
Yes, you left the mind.
Yeah.
Then?
When I'm here.
Yes, there is an I amness. There is a sense of being, a sense of presence which is here. Now this presence has been given very big names. It has been called Om. It has been called I am. God said, I am that I am. Jesus said, before Abraham, I am. This I am. It has been called the light of the universe, the primordial vibration. But more importantly than anything else, at least the way I look at it, it is the presence of God within ourselves. Whether we call it Atma, whether we call it the primordial vibration, the Holy Spirit, whatever name we want to call it, that God has made himself available to himself. But when we are playing in this world of Maya, then it seems like I am this body-mind entity, and the purely non-phenomenal sounds too far out and far-fetched. So only God could have come up with a solution like this. And this narrative I am creating, okay? Only God could have come up with a solution like this. Because if he made himself available like an object, then that object would be like one of our other organs. You see? You say, okay, we have stomach, kidney, liver, heart, all this, then there's also God. You see? So the object of God then could be, the surgeon could find it, because it was purely objective. You see? And in his reality, the absolute reality is beyond all phenomena, non-phenomenal. So that becomes impossible for most in the human condition. How do you find? You see? And everybody goes to sleep when I'm talking about it anyway. You see? So it's difficult to fathom, or impossible actually at some level. So then this presence, this Atma, can it be found? Yes. But then when I ask you what is its boundary, you say it has no boundary. And you're not speculating. You're checking on the nature of your being, and you can't find a boundary. But perception cannot find the boundless.
Usually when you talk about the no boundary thing.
How the? It doesn't work in the room, it only works in Zoom. Yeah.
When you talk about no boundaries, I wanted to look now, because usually brings this question here, because boundaries seem to be for objects.
Yes.
And when you say that we notice that we have no boundaries, I can't really confirm. All I can say is, I'll have to check now again, but usually what I can say is no boundaries or no boundaries. Just.
So let's look at this deeper. It's a very important question. So when a question is asked, who are you? Were you born? Will you die? All of these questions, we cannot apply the same instruments to answer them as we would apply to worldly things. How many fingers? 5. You perceive and you answer. But when a question is asked, were you born? Then what inside you do you have that can answer such a question? Are you aware now? This seems straightforward for most of us because there is no escape. So we say, are you aware now? Say, I am aware. But you did not see this awareness. And yet you were able to answer. In the same way, when the question is asked about the boundary of it, it takes you to that intuitive knowledge where you can say that really there is no boundary. There is no empirical way of knowing this. There is no intellectual, mental, calculative sort of way in which you can understand this. So if you look at any question in the invitation, for example, if you look at Bhagwan's inquiry, if you look at the question that I keep asking, can you stop being? Or are you aware now? They cannot be answered from the traditional modes of intellect and perception. So let's take an example of that, probably the best example of that. Who is aware of the perception of this hand? Who is that? You are. Last time I was saying, is it you or your uncle? It's you, no? Now, on what basis are you labeling that which you cannot see and you're giving it the most important label in your life? This I is the most important thing in your life. Everything else is around that, isn't it? So, this which is aware, can you see it? That which is aware of the perception of the hand, can you see it? Can't see it. You see? So how do you know it is there? Not through perception. And not only that, you see, you take this unperceivable thing and you call it I. And you say every other I comes and goes, this one is my reality. The sages say like that. Isn't it strange? Where are you saying this from? Where are you saying this I from? On what basis? If you had to produce this I in court, what would you do? If you had a subpoena for the real I, you had to quote someone, the real I has to produce themselves. I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. You can't find this one. You cannot perceive this one. And yet you call it I. That moment of insight is the moment of aparoksha anubhuti, which means the moment of purely intuitive insight, also called Atma Gyan or Brahma Gyan. And it's universal, everyone has it. You see? The mind obviously will not like this conversation. It's already saying something. You are aware of the perception of this hand, it's you only, no? If I say to you, it's Uncle Bob, it is Uncle Bob. Yeah? I am. And your mind may be fighting this to the extent of getting frustrated. You see? But actually, it's such a simple truth that this I we cannot perceive, we cannot talk about any quality of it, and yet we say that this unperceivable one is my reality, it is I. Yes? Yes or no? So, with what instrument do you recognize this I? You may say with the I because you're not using your mind and you're not using your perception. And yet you're saying, I am aware. If you meet this now, then let's not be arrogant. Like a lot of what you read in the scriptures will sound very straightforward and basic. Because they're just talking simply about this reality. It's not meant to be complicated. But if you use the wrong instruments, which is perception and intellect, mind intellect, then it will seem complicated. So this awareness, which is aware of perception called sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell, imagination, memory, thought, emotion, all of these sensations are being perceived and you are aware of them. Try your hardest to try and perceive this I which is aware. With all your might, try to find it. Try to perceive it. So this is the simplest and most important example of intuitive insight. Now stay in this place. You won't understand what it means to stay in this place. To start by understanding it to be that don't make use of the other instruments of knowledge. Remain empty. Let all your thoughts come and go. Let all perceptions come and go. But you don't attach, grasp onto anything. Here you are not lost. Everything that needs to be known is known. Doesn't look like. Empty, empty, suffer while being empty. Do everything while you're empty. Even if you have to suffer, try to suffer while being empty. Now, as you're empty, that is when you're making room for heart knowledge, you're making room for intuitive insight. So to be like this, to come to the presence of God within ourselves, and in the light of that presence, to come to the discovery of that which is beyond perception, that is called Satsang. This is the truth that the Sat part of Satsang is about. What is Atma? This is we call this part of the house, we call it the Atma Gyan Kendra. So what is this Atma? Presence of God, presence, or a presence of a being, and that being is God. Life is not life till we have found this light, this Atma. It gives an illusion of life. Maya is a great seeming, isn't it? It seems as if it is true, it is life, it is authentic. But it's just a play, just a set of appearances. It hides the truths if we let it. That if we let it is important. Inherently, it cannot hide the truth from you. But when you get involved with the narratives, when you get involved with the labels, then it seems like the truth goes missing. But empty of the narratives, empty of the stories, the presence will become apparent if that is His grace, if that is His will. There is nothing else in the world which you can exchange for this discovery and say, okay, now I will make this much money, I will get the best partner, I will have the healthiest body, and I will know the highest concepts. And with all of those, I have now replaced the discovery of this presence within myself. You cannot do that. As much as you cannot eat thermocol for dessert, you cannot. We can imagine as if, or we can believe that we are partaking of something truthful or authentic or real when we play in this world. But when done without the light of presence, without the light of Atma, without the darshan of Atma within, then it is all thermocol, it's all fake. This does not mean that outer relationships and money and body and reading and all of those things should stop. It only means that inwardly you are empty for God, okay? And in being empty for God, you're living in the light of God. It may sound contradictory, no? But really that example is very, very good. That example of the lane being very narrow and there being room only for one is very important and it's very literal. So if we fill ourselves with me, then no room for God. To be empty for God gives the possibility of grace. And we may of course say that even that is up to grace, whether that we become empty for God, that's another conversation. As long as we still feel like I wake up, I do things, I came to satsang, till then, we still have these ideas and conditions. We can determine to remain empty. We can be determined to remain empty for God. And to be empty is actually the simplest. It is to be picking up, which is more difficult. To be empty is simple. You go to the airport, you see two people there. One is picking up every bag from the conveyor belt. The other is just standing back and observing everything. What is simpler? To not pick up. To stand back is simple. But the one who has the habit of picking up, for them it may seem like some effort to stop. But in actuality, it is the not picking up which is easier. So let the conveyor belt of your mind go on. You don't pick up a bag. Years ago, a cousin of mine told me about this restaurant, and now it's everywhere, of course, but even Bangalore has one. But this is a Chinese restaurant. It was called, the first one was called Yo Sushi. So, or Japanese, sushi. So what would happen in this? That there was a conveyor belt running throughout the restaurant, and I'm sure most of you have seen this thing now. You see, so there's a conveyor belt running throughout the restaurant, and the dishes are coming, and the dishes have different colors. So green one costs this much, red one costs this much, white one costs this much. So you know. You see, so if it looks appetizing to you, you pick it up. If you don't want it, you don't pick it up. You see? So the mind is just like that conveyor belt. That which you've nourished with your belief and identity, that will seem attractive to you. If the bowl came labeled freedom, pick this up and you are free. You see, it really actually came because it's our spiritual identity. You may be tempted. You see? But if you were a different type of conditioning, if you were just into business or something, the bowl came, pick this up and you get $1 million, you see, that may be tempting. And the enlightenment one may sound like rubbish. So based on our conditions, based on what we've accepted as true in the past, that has a certain gravitation about it. So if you feel that you need a soulmate to complete you, when the bowl comes in the guise of offering solutions for soulmate, those will be attractive. If another wants something else, then that will seem attractive. But the mind is nothing but this conveyor belt with the different offerings, different proposals. All of them have a non-existent protagonist, a non-existent me at the center of them. So to be empty, let them come, let them go. Then you have a chance of living in God's light. Try to think and believe thoughts and be in your presence. You may say it's completely possible. Conceptually it is possible because presence doesn't go anywhere. Being is always here. We know this. You see? But what happens when we get into the hypnosis of a thought? You lose this. You seem to lose this. You see? And satsang is an antidote to that seeming. And we may say seeming, but really it feels like the clutches of Maya. When suffering comes, we don't say, oh, nice seeming. You see, it's all a seeming. Feel like our throat is being squeezed. So, be empty. When you are empty, then you come to intuitive insight, the intuitive insight of your reality as pure awareness itself, and the reality of the presence of God within yourself, the Atma, the Holy Spirit. That should be the end, no? You come to insight, that should be the end of the story, but it's never the end. Because that me that we took ourselves to be, although now seems to be defanged, has lost its bite to a great extent, but it's still waiting in the shadows for a chance to reincarnate. And now the new mold which is seeming very attractive to it is the spiritual mold. I was a worldly person. Now I have turned to God. I have had insights about the nature of reality. Where are my devotees? Where is my Satsang Bhavan? All this starts to seem very attractive. So it's waiting in the sidelines, you see. And it is because of this one that keeps waiting that Papaji said, vigilance until my dying breath. Because even after the insight comes, the insight makes it clear that there is no me. The me seems to be wiped clean. But the Tanmatra, the minutest form of the egoic identity, is always here in the human condition, whether we like it or not.
What's that word you used, Father?
It's called Tanmatra, Tanmatra, the minutest quality of this egoic identity. So I've been calling it the me who remains. There should be no me that remains. We would all love that. But the one that would love that is the me who remains. Or the one who says, but there is no me left. That is the me who remains. You see? That me who remains is a very dangerous character. If it is allowed to fester, it can make muck out of the highest spiritual insights. It can ruin the strongest sanghas, the strongest teachers, it can make Ravan out of anybody. Because now the concepts which it will use will resemble what you are finding in your intuitive insight. And therefore, they will seem very unshakable. When we start this spiritual search, we were taken aback by the question, who am I? Isn't it? Like, who am I? First we are like, what kind of question is that? Then when we really accepted it, like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. You see? But then, once the spiritual ego is taken charge, who are you? I am the self. I am Brahman itself. I am the light of this universe. All true words, but if taken egoically, then they lose their fragrance, they become horrible prisons, and we make a new prison for ourselves around this spiritual identity. So, and then what happens is that we are no longer empty for God. We are full of the new me, the spiritual me. And that spiritual me now seems worthwhile. That spiritual pride now seems worthy. Yes, but I do know the truth. Why aren't they listening to me? Why isn't my family accepting that I am free and leaving me alone? See, don't they realize that I speak from my heart and they are just coming from their mind? Haven't we all noticed this festering? So to apply this spiritual insight onto an individual is the spiritual ego. And when these offers come from the mind now, like this, like that, which appeal to your spiritual pride, then they will seem worthy and you are no longer empty and you're now in the hypnosis of the spiritual mind, catering to your spiritual identity. Therefore, for no one in this world is just the path of insight enough. Jnana must be accompanied by bhakti, and bhakti comes naturally with jnana, and bhakti must be accompanied by jnana, which comes naturally with true bhakti. But sometimes in today's world, we want to compartmentalize and say, no, this is how I am. So what is bhakti? Bhakti is a combination of the deepest love and the deepest sense of servitude. Unconditional love. When you are anchored deeply in unconditional love, then that is love for God. When you live like that, how important is the mind to you? Doesn't matter what it is saying. Just forget about deeply in love with God, even in worldly love. You met someone and you've fallen in love. You see, you're just. Doesn't matter, emails are not being answered, the work is not happening. You don't care because you are in love. But those who have tasted the love for God and are tasting the love for God recognize that at the root of even the personal seeming love, when all conditions are removed, there is this beautiful unconditional love And as you remember the beloved, this love deepens. As you remain in the insight of the Atma, if you remain in the insight of the self, then this love deepens. And it just keeps deepening and sweetening as life goes on. Some of you are thinking that you don't love God, but that's just a thought. Empty of the thought, the love is apparent. So, we may love someone in this world, but as we love that one, does that mean we are their bhakta or devotee? Just love does not make a bhakta. We may love each other as husband and wife, but does that mean we are a devotee of the partner? What is missing? The servitude. So deep love mixed with a deep servitude, and servitude means that let thy will be done. May your will move me, may your will guide me. Servitude means taking a risk. Because so far anything that we discussed is not risky. You sit and you meditate and do neti-neti, inquiry, have insight, you maybe find some peace and love. Okay. But to follow the will of God means to be empty of your will first. Move me may sound very easy to say. Father, move me. Let thy will be done. But it means that you're not attached to any outcome that you're attached to in your life. You may say, I want to go settle in Tiruvannamalai. He is moving you to Timbuktu. Are you okay with that? So this is when our lip service spirituality really hits the road and becomes a true spirituality. Are we willing to serve him? Are we willing to be a true representative of Guru Nanak Ji saying, Hukum Rajai Chalna, Nanak Likhya Nal, which means his highest pointing was that we must follow the command of God. He said command, not even will. But the servant cannot have two masters. Our worldly life, the me who remains has to first accept its servitude anyway. It's either a servant to the mind or to God. There is no third will, no? Either the mind will tell you, do this, don't do this, this is good, this is good. Or your intuitive guidance, the Holy Spirit, your Atma will guide you. Is there a third way? There is no third way. So the me that remains, that we still take ourselves to be that something, is in servitude either to the mind or to the heart. Now the problem is that when we go with our mind, it seems like I'm living on my own terms, which is completely fake, because it's not my own terms, it's the ego, it's the mind's way. But this is the classical error, no, in the human condition. That although God is real, although God is here, we move based on what we think is right, what we think is wrong, what we think is good, what we think is bad. But what happened to the hukam of God, the command of God, the will of God? Is it just theoretical? So Nanakji said, you may think and think, you may meditate and meditate, you may sit and experience a lot of experiences of love and bliss and everything. You may apply the highest smartness that you think you have, but nothing will help you unless you follow the will of God. Even Jesus said, you may call out to me, Lord, Lord, but I will not recognize you if you have not followed the will of my Father. Did Hanumanji say, let me think about it, when Ram told him to do something? So all the examples are available to us to show us that the way of devotion is a deep love and a deep servitude. And to be deeply in servitude to God, we must live in His presence. How to follow the Master? You haven't met Him. The students of Nanakji would have had a tantrum, no? Saying, how to follow the will of God? And at least in his case, they were lucky because his utterances were the utterances from God within, from the Atma within, so they could follow Him. Follow Him to deepen in their own relationship with the Sadguru within. And this and the continuation of satsang in the world, in a way, is the same tradition from thousands of years before, even Nanakji. It's the same attempt. To receive guidance so that we can come to the same Sadguru presence within, the holy guide within ourselves, and then surrender our life to that presence and allow Him to move us and to guide us. Now that, if it doesn't sound risky, you're not hearing what I'm saying. If it sounds like, it means the end of what you thought your life is going to be is to make yourself surely available for God, moment to moment. Are we living like that? So now, in this insight, love, and surrender, servitude, is a truly spiritual life. And you can tug at any leg of this table. You don't need to juggle, you don't need to figure out, oh, yesterday I was inquiring, today I'll be a servant of God. It can't be like that. Whatever your heart will guide you. And your life becomes a life truly truly lived and not a zombie life. Servitude really questions our faith. Is God real? Or is it just a feel-good mechanism we've created for ourselves? Oh, the world gets too much. I close my eyes, I meditate, I feel better, I go back. Is that the self-help thing that God is? Or is there a reality? When we say reality, it has to be more than what is perceived. None of us take God to be more real than we take our hand to be real. None of us do, including this one. That's why I'm also just a beginner on this. I take this to be more real than that. Especially in my moments of foolishness, selfishness. That's why that experiment works. No? When I say to you, if Krishna was sitting in front of you, or Jesus was sitting in front of you, would you look away? Would you start living in your own terms? Or would you just ask him for everything? Would you ask him for guidance? Should I go left or right? Would you allow him to move you? What have we done? We've done an experiment where we've said if he was perceivable, then I would take him to be really real. But that's exactly the opposite of the true way. The true way is to trust your intuitive insight, which takes us beyond perception, to take that to be a higher reality than the one that the mind tells us. That is faith. Faith is not blind belief. People say blind faith. It's not blind. It is beyond perception. To have faith that what you are finding intuitively is reality, a greater reality than this world of Maya, that is faith. So, whether you realize it or not, you come to satsang also in that sense to meet one who is attempting to live in that faith. Who is taking what is intuitive heart is showing them to be more real than what the eyes are showing them. Because if you don't have that kind of faith, then the world is always screaming things at us that we have to do. Our responsibilities and worldly expectations. Then that will always become more important and more urgent at least. We'll never follow God's will because we still take the perceived to be real. Okay? Now you see how it all converges? Jnana, bhakti, it's not really separate. It's all converging. Because if you don't trust that intuitive insight which is beyond perception, then it is impossible to be a true bhakta. If you don't meet his presence, if you don't be with his presence, then how will you be devoted to him? And you'll just create two compartments in your mind, the spiritual mind and the worldly mind. You see? But the spiritual mind is only going to lead to the spiritual ego. What does the spiritual mind want? What is the end game for the spiritual mind? A glowing aura. Everybody should notice. Maybe? Like that sweet boy, no? Who was in Satsang and then went to Rishikesh with us. And he was sitting in the Satsang with Guruji and he just felt like he got it that day. Like, so clear, I got it. When Satsang got over, he went outside and he was still in that sort of beautiful thing. And then this lady started approaching him. She was a Western lady, you know. So his mind said to him, "Oh, can they see it now? Are they already coming to me? You're going to ask me a question. You see, maybe it is visible." And she said to him, "Can you tell me where is the auto rickshaw stand?" And then the bubble burst, and it's a good thing that it burst. Because if she had said, "I see something in you and I want to ask you a question," then that could have become a big spiritual ego. Thankfully, she asked for the auto rickshaw stand. What is the end goal of our spiritual mind? People to respect us, to think that we have something of value. It's all nonsense, no? Because anything that is of value here is purely moment to moment provided by God. Even the next breath. If the breath stops, then what value? If the heart stops, then what value? If these atoms and molecules, apparently atoms and molecules don't keep themselves together, then what value? We don't even know what keeps this bunch of food together. So this is the human condition, this is the human pride.
That example you gave, that bubble bursting, no? It could have been the other way around. It could have said that I still have faith in my inside and I don't let this burst my bubble. Or
yeah, it could have gone that way also. But he came to and reported, when we were back in Bangalore, he reported that burst his bubble. But of course, his mind could have said, yeah, but more will come, or something. What you may be also saying is that the true insight remains unaffected by how the world responds or takes us, and that's absolutely true. You see, great sages like Yogi Ji were not recognized for many, many years.
it could be a lack of faith, no? Like, when is it a lack of faith and when is it?
Lack of faith is when we go to the mind instead of following God's will. Faith is just to remain in the heart and ask Him to move us and to guide us, to take Him to be the reality and the world to be, if not unreal, at least less real than Him.
If somebody were to say that what you're calling the heart isn't really the heart, what would you have faith in that?
Yes.
But that, yeah, I'm not able to frame it. I don't know.
Yes. So that we're talking about, I feel, about two different things. One is like when you have an insight, the mind wants to grasp at it and build an identity around it. You see? You have an insight, you see? So you came one day and you felt like you came to the nature of being. See? And then the mind could have taken that and say, oh, does this mean I'm enlightened? Does this mean I'm free? Now I better answer questions in a particular way. You see, things like that. And then if in this Maya, in this Leela, it started playing that way, that people started coming to you, asking you questions and all that, but you were still in the process of identity building and not truly living in faith, moment to moment, being guided in every word by God, but instead to try to build an image for yourself, try to show everyone how free you are, how spiritual you are. So that is the distinction between living from pride and living from faith.
Let's say even just following God's will. I feel some guidance comes and I feel it's hard guidance and I have to follow it. But then somebody comes along and tells me that's not the heart.
Yeah.
So now I have two options. Either it is a credible source, like maybe you tell me.
Yeah.
I could say I still have faith in that being the heart. Like that's where, I mean, this started off when you were talking about if you have Krishna sitting in front of you and the mind.
Yeah.
And the reason it's more easy there is you can't doubt it, you're seeing it.
Mm.
But this is I don't know what, like.
So that is why Master is a great gift in our life. Because till all of this seems confusing, till we are not truly able to distinguish between our heart and when the mind is playing as if it is our heart, till then to have someone that truly is connected to God's light in their heart, it doesn't have to be just like a master on a pedestal or something like that. Could be a Sangha brother or sister, may not be in the Sangha also, but just someone who's truly leading a heartfelt life, a true life, intuitive life, then that is a great gift that we have. Otherwise it seems so difficult. To climb a mountain, it's always helpful if somebody is holding your hand has done it before.
One challenge that I see is probably
the issue with both the practice of servitude and also abiding in the presence is when you say, while we remain as the presence and we allow the thoughts and the feelings to come and go, that is very natural when we sit like this. And it's apparent, and mostly there are no thoughts really or no feelings that are moving. But when we get back, when the body gets back into activities, and the thoughts, the interactions happen, the thoughts and feelings come, that time it doesn't seem to be at all to allow them to come and go.
Exactly.
And that is where I find the problem.
Yes, exactly.
Problem statement.
Not disputing it at all.
So how do we
deepen in
overcome?
We deepen in it. See? So is your ability to remain like that in satsang or in when you're by yourself and not in the marketplace of the world, so to speak, is that helpful when you go out in the marketplace of the world, or is that detrimental?
It's helpful.
Why is it helpful?
Because I feel it does create a distance from the...
So as you deepen in this, as you deepen in Atma Jnana, as you deepen in your sadhana like this, then after a while, you will find that the oscillation, the disparity between being by yourself and being in the marketplace of the world is not that much. You see, I won't say it will completely go away. The Leela will still have some bite, but the bite will keep getting lighter and lighter, reducing. So what is to be done? Not to ponder about those times where you lose it. Not to waste your opportunity to be in his presence by thinking about, oh, but why isn't that fixed yet? It is to deepen now. It is to use every moment that we are not in that situation, when we are not caught up, use every moment of that. You see, because in those moments where we are under the hypnosis of the mind, there is no noticing of any of this anyway. Those are write-offs. You see, they're pure write-offs. So those are written off. Don't worry about them. But you see, but what the mind will do, and this is the two punch of the mind, it will say, first it will create all that for you, and then say, look, it's not that easy. It's okay when you're sitting in a cave, you see, but when you go to work, then what happens? So even when you're sitting in the cave, it is offering you this. You see, instead of saying, God. This is the subtlety, this is the tricky nature of the mind. It gives you, you see, you have breakfast in front of you, but saying, but this breakfast won't always be there. You see? What about lunchtime? Then you're refusing to eat the breakfast in front of you. So what they should actually mean is that we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, and whether we will be caught up in so much identity tomorrow that we never turn towards God. So nobody can predict that. I can't predict that. You see? So then this moment, what should I do? I should hang on to Him for dear life with all my might. Instead of trying to fix it for ourselves in the future or in the past. This moment, come really strong in your heart. Otherwise, what will happen is the mind tempts you all day at work or whatever, and then when you're done with that situation, also it is telling you, see, you're like this at work, it's not happening. So whole day you're not in it then. So if you, with integrity, use every moment that you notice, that you can, then God will take care of the rest. But I don't feel like I've ever said it is easy. It's not easy. In the moment, it is easy. If you look at it like a life, it is not easy. If you look at it in time, it is not easy. And it is in that context that Buddha said, no? He said that one may overcome 1,000 armies, but the one who overcomes their own mind is rarer still. So he's not saying it's easy at all. But it is the only worthy way of life. And it is easy now. Okay. Now, the question is, have I laid a foundation for us to lead a true life in God? In terms of the pointings which have been made available to you. Now, this of course doesn't mean that because the foundation has been laid, the pointers have been made available, you see, we have vanquished the mind and then now it is powerless. Doesn't mean that. It will tempt you next minute. It will make everything about me next minute. We don't know. But in that moment that you have before that starts, you can be with Him. And this is the astounding nature of this discovery, that God's presence is a living presence within you. Not just a concept, not just an idea. It is a living reality, the only living reality. To live as if that is not there and the world is real is avidya, is ignorance. To recognize His presence, to recognize the Atma within, is the letting go of avidya, letting go of ignorance, coming to true self-knowledge. Able to follow a bit? So all of us are as lucky, if not luckier than Arjuna also. How was Arjuna lucky? That his best friend was Krishna. Huh? The Lord of the universe was his best friend, he was his guru. But you have the same Lord, the same one who comes as Ram, Krishna, Jesus. You see, the same one is available with you moment to moment. When I was a young atheist, and if somebody had told me these words, I would have said, crazy, it's crazy. It's not like that. You're talking about some biochemical organism, what presence of God. And in that way I can say, thank God for suffering. The suffering squeezes the pride out of us, and it shows us the inability of merely conceptual knowledge to really help with situations. It's only when we run out of moves on the outside do we usually turn to the inside. Turn to the inside. Your eyes may be this way, but you live this way. Then one Swamiji said, no? Antarmukhi sada sukhi. Turned inwards, always at peace. Always happy. This realm of perceptions, you can't help. It will show up. Waking state will come. It will show up. All the drama will be there. It will happen here. But in reality, if you turn towards the Atma within, God's light within, what can shake you so much? What is so difficult? That doesn't mean you won't have moments where this will seem so real and you completely turned this way. You want to fix it here. But when you recognize your error, just come back. Don't waste more time thinking about those things, about how I did that, why did I get caught up, what. That is the 2-punch. The 1-2 punch, the 2 is the knockout punch. Because the 1 happens usually for a short time. You see, it's a jab. The knockout punch is our guilt. I am not worthy. What is the point of my satsang? I've been coming doing this for so long, nothing is changing. We have families to do that for us. We don't need to do that to ourselves. They will tell us anyway. You've been in satsang so long, you done all the, look at you. So you don't have to do their job for them. You stay inward facing. God's presence is with you. What else can we ask for? If what I'm saying is true, then that is the only way. That is the only way that we should live, we can live. But you have to determine for yourself, you have to check for yourself. Whose presence is this? Most of you have come to a point where at least that there is a presence you're not able to deny. And if you are, it's okay. Even if you say, I can't even find the presence, it's okay. It's okay. At least you are with integrity trying to find him. That is fine. And at least I will give you more leeway. But if you say that I have found the presence and presence is here, and then you're not living with it, then I will not take the excuse. Like you found him and you're saying, no, I would rather make friends with Maya rather than him. If you say I haven't found him, then at least I say, okay, let's look together, let's be more humble, let's be more faithful, all of those things. But if he's here for you and you can say truly with integrity that there is a holy presence here within yourself, then why leave that? There's never a good reason to leave that. And when the mind tempts you, and the world seems real and we seem like I am this body mind, but at least there will come a point where you will notice that you're falling into that mind trap. You see? Then snap out of it and return home. It's like you had a nightmare. See? Then if you spend the rest of your waking state also, there's no such thing, but the rest of your waking state also talking about the nightmare, then this is the nightmare continuing. You had a nightmare, you got caught up in unreality. See? Then you notice you got caught up in unreality, but you're still talking about how I got caught up in unreality, when will I finish, when will... So you see all of that, then that unreality is continuing. Instead, what should we do? See? Return to God. That is what I'm saying. Is God God or no? Like, is God really God?
It takes faith in those moments.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
those really testing moments.
Yes.
You can really see that faith is required.
Yes. Yes.
Because you show us that faith is fully available, and not only available, but God is here to run our lives. But then in those moments, that's the real taste of faith.
Exactly. Yes, but what I'm saying is those moments gone. The mind has won. You see? So your Rocky Balboa and Draga or whatever has won those rounds in the boxing match. You see? But in the other rounds, if you still think about those rounds where you lost, then that won't help. So then you have to fight for your truth.
I feel sometimes even noticing that we are caught, that we are caught up, is not enough. That we need strength.
Yes. Yes. Because it is possible to notice and still go along with it.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so caught up in the mind, but what to do? Maybe I don't have faith. It just becomes, even that becomes a comfort zone, no?
Yeah, it doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, but even the uncomfortableness of that becomes a comfort zone. You just feel like, at least I feel I'm right here. At least I know something. It's very difficult to remain in the mind unless you're feeling right about something. Have you seen this? We may say, no, I just don't want to do it. But when we are caught up in the suffering of the mind, even then we are feeling right about something. I just feel like, no, I'm okay with this. Like, in a way, we are making that determination that to be this much right, I'm okay with this much suffering. Huh? You notice? Just contemplate this. And when it catches you next time, just see this. So suppose you're having like an argument in your relationship or something like that. So there will be a point where you're saying, no, but this, I'm going to be right about this even though I'm being mindy. If being right in that moment in our own eyes is worth it, but actually it's never worth it. It is only important to be right in God's eyes. And if we recognize the reality of God, then this will be quite apparent that it doesn't matter what grading I'm giving to myself, how right I'm being to myself. All that matters is whether I'm really living in His will, whether I'm following His presence, the aliveness is allowed to move me uncontaminated with my righteousness. So metaphor is coming. There's a beautiful temple of God in your heart. And there is a Maya Nagri, a realm of Maya on the outside. What you take to be real and where you spend your time determines the holiness of your life. Initially, it'll seem like, not initially, like I'm still constructing my temple, but it'll seem like we are setting the foundation for that temple in our heart. And what are the building blocks of that? All that we discussed, our faith, our obedience, our humility, our prayerfulness, our gratitude, our patience, our compassion, all of these things are the building blocks for the temple. And love, of course, is very important. Atmika is looking at me, so I better say love. Atmika से satsang में मजा ही नहीं आया. Love for God, of course, is very, very strong foundation. And it works both ways. You build the temple and God will come, or you recognize that God is here and the temple will be built. Either way, but don't leave God. So then a question always could be asked saying, which way are you facing? Are you facing the heart altar, or are you facing the realm of Maya, Maya Nagri? I want to see one suffer while facing the heart altar. Can we suffer? Turn to God within and suffer. Suffering is only a symptom of giving reality to the unreal.
So when we're saying loudly, so when you said that, if you notice that you went in some narrative,
It's a mental adventure.
yeah, you went there, and then you just come back,
Yeah.
and that I'm giving.
Don't find mechanisms in the mental adventure to find solutions for the mental adventure. Just return to your heart.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what we keep doing is we got caught up in thinking. Then we start thinking about being caught up in thinking and why we get caught up in thinking and when it's going to end.
And the truthiness.
See, all that stuff. See? And that seems very like a nice comfort zone to mope in our, in our thinkingness or whatever. But just return to God's presence. So that's why these examples are useful. No? If Krishna was waiting in your living room and you got caught up in when you went to the kitchen to make him some tea or something, then you forgot that he's waiting. Is it? And then when you remember what to do, if you remembered that he's waiting, what would you do? Would you continue in the kitchen saying, "Oh, I forgot he's there. How could I have forgotten? And how many times he may have gone by now. What am I going to do?" You see? So instead, you should just return. Just return instantly. Now, these sound very simplistic when I put them in metaphors like this, but this is how we spend most of our life. Most of our life goes in this. Even those who found his presence within themselves, the mind tricks them and keeps them away from him using all kinds of childish stuff. Sometimes it's just like we feel that this God is not God. The God whose presence can come in the form of Atma within ourselves is not the God. We just feel like, can wait, it's not, must be some minor Devta or something. He's the one. He is the one that may come into the world in the form of an incarnation. But even an incarnation is an aspect of him. He is the one in your spiritual heart, in your heart altar. So Maya is the biggest magic to how, in spite of his presence being here, we can make our life about one non-existent me. And when asked who is this me, we point to a bundle of food. And we say it is worthwhile to spend my life focused on this bundle of food. Rather than him, the one who is the light of this universe. There should be a stronger word than avidya for this. It's like a sheer hypnosis of nonsense, no? Like a stupidity multiplied manyfold and being hypnotized in that. To take ourselves to be this bundle of flesh and blood when his presence is available or apparent. You see, either way, we don't have an excuse. If you've come to satsang and you've heard that he is available, then what are you doing with your life? And for those who can even say, but he's apparent. Every time I turn, he's apparent. But why do you turn the other way? You should say, every time I make the mistake of turning the other way, life seems like it is suffering. So I am not going to turn. Instead, we say, but every time I look within, I find him. You look outside as much as you now look within. Take what's within to be real as much as you now take what's outside to be real. Start with that much. And some of you are trying to balance it out. Half, I'll take this half the time to be real, and I'll take that half to be real the other half of the time. Forget about it. It doesn't work that way. You have to bet your life one way or the other. This jugglery business doesn't work in spirituality. Risk it. Sorry, my dear. So risk it. Just one lifetime I'm asking for. We have so many. Risk it on God. Do everything for God. Guided by God, moved by God. If it becomes a big mess, then you have many more lives to come. It's okay. But if you're being all safe about it, you're saying, I'm going to balance things out. Neither the mind wants you to balance it, nor God wants you to balance it. The mind makes an excuse and says, balance it out. It knows once you get caught up in it, maybe for this lifetime you're gone. So really the question is he here? Is he here or no? Yeah? Here? Everybody becomes like very open and empty, you know. Is he a living reality? And is there any other living reality? What is the yes but? That is the conditionality. No? So we have to make it an unconditional love and unconditional reverence. If it's still yes but, in this world there's a new term that's often being used. No? It's called whataboutery. Have you heard it? What about? So we say yes, but what about? But what about? So to stop the whataboutery. I like this word. What about? Nothing about. Just leave it. But and fundamentally, that what about is me. What about me? Yes, but what about me? My plan, my ideas, my roadmap for life. Throw it away. Let every step be his. Why can't it be? Huh? Okay, come on, speak up. Let's speak as friends, not guru disciple. Pretend we're having coffee together in some coffee shop. Huh? Addiction. It's an addiction. There's no good reason for it. No. Do you feel like, how many of you feel like you can't follow him because you haven't met him? Haven't met him. So just make him your number one priority. Then his grace will make it happen. And whichever satsangs you attend with whoever, then that will guide you to that. Your inner satsang will guide you to that. Once you make him your top priority, then the right videos will come, the right contemplation will come, the right books may come, everything. He lays the way very beautifully for those who are truly looking for him. One thing that helped me, and not from any cynicism at all, just because what happened here is that God gifted this one with some skill sets and things like that, even in the world and things, and then something here got used to the label of being like a young achiever and a young this and a young that. And then as this part took over and the love for God took over, I felt a lot of that. I felt a lot of that. And many well-meaning uncles in those days also tried to tell me that those who catch the spiritual bug, then life is over for them. It's wasted. So I got that kind of feedback as well. Later, I started looking more and more and more, and at this point, I've realized that actually nobody cared that much about me. Nobody really cared that much. I mean, there was a time where everybody loves pulling other people down. So, especially in that kind of work and this kind of environment, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So there was this like young CEO and all of this stuff. And then when all that stuff went away, then for a few weeks or something, people were like, oh, look at this guy, what happened to him, what happened? In a few weeks, nobody cared. Nobody really, everybody is so busy in their own stuff that very little. And that gave me some reassurance that they're not actually that bothered, actually. So when the invitation stopped coming, thankfully, and I never enjoyed those things anyway, but then I would notice sometimes that, oh, this one, that. It stopped happening that way. And I was very grateful actually, because for me it was always a chore to go here and there. So that's good. So, but I'm sure you're also finding, as I found, that grace just every step of the way, God's grace does it so well. And we may not realize it in that moment, but when we look back at it later, we say, wow, I'm so grateful my company went away. All that stuff went away, all the labels from the world, the young achiever, all that went away. I'm so grateful. Because it's work. It's work. But they set you up and then you have to work to keep up to that image in their minds. So I'm very happy it happened at a very early age here. But all that was tasted at some level, and by God's grace it all went away. And by the way, I'm not saying that it has to go like that, that it all goes away. In your life, it may be more lived in a different way, different experiences may happen, bigger work may come. We can't really predict any of that. But hopefully I'm saying with integrity that here between a king and a fakir, I don't care either way. I don't care either way if this life has to be lived, where everybody looks at this one as a foolish beggar, stupid servant of God, not even servant of God, just servant. That's fine. And somebody looks at me and says, "Oh, you are the highest one that you ever met." It just means nothing either way. What's important is that God is here. He is here. So you can just have compassion for your other brothers and sisters in the world. They're living as if this stuff is important and they're missing out on what gives life to life.
Just adding on to that, in my life, I feel like everybody has left me, like apart from my nuclear family, my husband, my kids who live with me, friends, they've all just vanished. Like everyone's lost interest in me. And it doesn't hurt me, but I do wonder, where did everyone disappear to? Like when I was so stupid and leading a very stupid life, everyone was very much there. There were like queues of people inviting me, etc., but everyone's vanished because I'm not interesting at all. Like I have nothing to offer. And if at all I have to say something, it irritates them. Exactly. They tell me I'm foolish and I'm daydreaming.
Utopian.
And talking absolute rubbish actually. Like and some of them lead spiritual lives, but this is just too much. Like it just sounds really.
It's too radical.
And it sounds too radical and really foolish. So I've also stopped. And I feel
this Satsang with Ananta, too radical and really foolish. I love this.
And I feel like it's maybe God's grace just removing everything, taking me back to like rock bottom, like clearing the whole space. The other thing I'm struggling with, which is day to day, the people that are remaining are my two babies, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and two boys who are really challenging because they constantly need attention and stimulation. And I find I love them, but I don't have any interest in hanging out with them, playing with them. I do what I need to ensure they survive, and I love them. But I don't feel like going to the playground. I don't feel like going on adventures. I don't feel like I have no interest. I just want to close my eyes, or even if I'm not closing my eyes, I just want to just sit and be doing nothing. And my husband and a lot of my family are saying I'm very lazy. Because they're having to step up because the children are trying to like climb out of windows and they're crazy. Like I've got two really active boys, like and I feel guilty, like I feel like, oh, I'm not a good enough mom, like, but I genuinely don't have an interest.
I was looking around for Radha Ma, but because she has two boys also very active and things, so she could have given you some advice. But it's very natural for the world to label us as lazy. How many of us have heard this here in this room? All of us have heard it, right? So it's very natural if you're just sitting in God's presence, sitting by yourself. You're not even, like the world would prefer it if you were out partying in pubs every night.
Definitely.
You see? In fact, one of the wives of a Sangha member, so he would tell her that he's going to a pub to party with his friends, but he could not tell her that he's going to Satsang. So what happened one day, thankfully, God's grace works like this. So he came to Satsang and she got very upset with him for coming to Satsang. And then apparently there's a very angry version of me that comes in dreams. So in the wife's dream, I came and apparently I fired her saying, "Why didn't you come to satsang? You should have come." So then she didn't stop him from coming to satsang after that. So this dream one is very scary. So it's helpful sometimes. But when I listen to this, I just hear a lot of grace, because this is what happened here also, that a lot of the invitations stopped coming, and I was not interesting because we could not resonate with the things that.
In fact, they find me quite annoying, like, because it's just a total mismatch.
Here, even people like you said, I feel it's very insightful what you said, because even those who think that they're leading spiritual lives, when they talk to me, they get irritated.
Yes.
Yes, it's the same. Because it's just like, for me, it's very different what spirituality means compared to the rest of the world. You see? Because for the rest of for a lot of others, spirituality really means how God is going to help me. You see? And here it's mostly, how am I going to serve God? How is my life available for God? So, Radha is back, so she can share something. But really, I feel like the best way to be the best parent also is to follow His will, moment to moment. Allow His presence to move you, allow His presence to guide you. Don't have a position either way. Don't say, I'm going to do this with the kids, or don't also say, no, I just want to sit. Leave yourself empty for God to move you. Because even that I have to be a certain way can become like a subtle mental position. So just be empty of that. And if you're truly living in God's presence, then that is the best parent anyone can hope to have. You see, what better parent can you have? Of course, the world will not understand it. And the kids also may not understand it, because they'll be like, come play and do all of this. But just to be graced by one who is living in his light itself is, you can't say this to them or say this to your husband also, but be reassured in your heart that that if you're following His will, His grace will take care of everyone. They will not have a bad parent if the parent is living in God. You want to add something to it? You missed what she said. But she's got two very active boys, 1 and 3. And she was saying that.
The last time. They're here and every time.
Give her the mic.
So what's the question exactly?
I feel like I'm not a very good mother in the conventional sense. I don't feel like playing with them or interacting with them much. I do what's necessary for their survival, and I love them and give them a lot of kisses. But I feel like that's the extent of it. Like, I don't feel like playing. I don't want to go to the playground. I don't want to entertain them. I don't want to take them for activities. I just rather just sit and be.
Yeah. We also talk a lot about parenting, because I feel like boys or girls doesn't matter. Eventually, it's just kids are kids. And yes, it does. Something changes after you are in satsang. I also feel like parenting has been so hyped up, like overhyped, like you have to do this, you have to, I don't know. I was talking to my husband today. I was talking to my husband, and we really don't know what a good parent is. Nobody knows. I feel like the ones who like say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, they themselves are not sure if they're being good parents. You can't know,
Yeah, and maybe we're going to raise neurotic kids, having to constantly do activity and constantly fill your days. Maybe they should just learn to be at a young age.
But not even that part, like not even that, like do anything. And my boys are like 13 and 15 almost. And I've been in satsang like, I don't know how long, very long, since they were very little. And they're fine. And they're not, and that 1 and 3 is the tough age. Once they are 8-ish, they're quite independent. So just trust your heart, and I don't do much with my boys actually. I really don't. I just feel, just trust your heart. Don't know what is good for them. And it's every moment, like, so sometimes you'll read something about parenting and then it gives you a shock, like, I'm a bad parent or a good, it always comes. But only in that moment, even Atmika can say, only in that moment you know whether you have to do this or you have to do that. You just can't know. You can't know. So if your heart is leading you that way, then it's fine. You don't have to mollycoddle your kids also so much. I feel like constantly giving them attention, it's not needed. It's not needed. In my experience, it's not needed.
So, and we can't actually even predict that after satsang, what kind of parenting will come from here and things like that, because I am like the expression that flows with my kids is a complete mollycoddler. It's a complete like, if my kids are around, I'm just with them, playing with them, giving them, at least I don't know what they will report, but I feel that way that, I would love to, even when I was working, when my son was younger, then he would just sit with me and he would know who all I'm sending the emails to. He still remembers those names. That what happened to Mr. Vijay Sethi, what happened to this one. So he still has that. So we can't judge either way what kind of parenting will come. We just have to, like she said, we just have to trust it moment to moment, and we are not. We can always take feedback. It's not that the world is, those who are well-meaning, we must always listen to them. Whether that resonates with the heart, later we don't know, but we must not ever close ourselves also. We must be open to what the world is saying, but we must check that in with our heart. So if somebody who really loves us tells us something, we must bring that into our contemplation and say, is there a mistake? Is there a blind spot? Is there something that I'm not seeing? And we must be open for God to guide us that way. So otherwise, very subtly, we can also become arrogant in our spirituality. You see, that I know better, don't tell me what is the thing. So at least the ones who you can feel really love you and they are telling you something, we don't have to be close to that, but we can allow that to be subservient to our heart guidance. Sometimes when we are close to things, God brings those who love us to speak those things, even if those initially may hurt, but it's not good to be closed. We can feel the hurt, and if you feel the hurt, we know that there's an egoic something there, right? If somebody has told us something and it's poking, that means there is an identity, some being right, which is there. But I'm not saying we just follow them, but we make ourselves available to hear and to contemplate in our heart whether there is something to that feedback. So then we don't close ourselves up to the world.
Father, just wanted to get some guidance. So the way I'm normally practicing these days is, so from being, and I'm always I sort of try to go and say, now who's aware of the presence, right? And then and also this sense that I have to be there for anything to be perceived. I have to be there first for anything to be perceived at all, even the I amness. I have to be there first. So then that sort of creates a distance, and you say, okay, so then the body is an object in me. Now, would you say that that's okay, or as your guiding is a little bit more about come to the presence and then say, okay, this is God and I'm handing over. They both maybe. I just would love to hear your thoughts, because I'm sure both are beautiful. But just love to hear what you recommend.
So let's look at it in the reverse. In the reverse, we would say that what is the goal of any sadhana, goal of any practice? The goal of any practice has to be to come to the insight about the truth and to come to the living presence of God, isn't it? So the insight which is purely non-phenomenal is the highest insight. So that to remain in that, or to just abide in the presence of God. We don't have to say this is better or this is worse. Either is good enough. If we spend even a fraction of our lives in that, it's different from what our lives were in a hugely different way. So from everything that we have found now, we have to find that which takes us away from mental activity, from distraction in the world, to a sheer absence of everything except the highest insight of yourself as pure awareness. So that would be like a nirvikalpa samadhi, where even the body, breath, world, all that doesn't seem to exist anymore. And it all just dissolves. So if you find that inquiring or doing that process that you've been following brings you into that, then that is a very worthwhile practice to do. Or if it brings you just in a very simple way to His presence within you, and you may feel that there is just His presence, just the presence you may feel also, and there's an awareness of that. So there's a being which hasn't dissolved, but it is there, but nothing else remains. So that is called Servikalpa Samadhi. So whatever sadhana that you're doing that brings you to either of these is good enough. Okay? So the trick is to be fully empty of inferring, of making any conclusions, none of that. Just, it's like as asleep as possible while being awake. This may be the simplest way I can put it. Just like deep sleep but awake. And nirvikalpa, the sleep is the tiniest sliver of wakefulness remains. And in Servikalpa, the wakefulness may be like a blazing presence. But and it's coming to the end of the world, to the end of the mind, to the end of all of this, while not having to fall asleep to do that. That is, I would recommend as the highest sadhana.
Going through all that while you say it.
Yeah.
Going through all that while you say it.
Mostly that's how it works. I feel also, yeah, I just feel like that. That's why I was feeling that time, no? There's like a satsang jukebox. Like in the past. Now I don't feel so much. At least today I don't feel so much. So where somebody would just ask the question and I'm inquiring, I'm looking, and when I open my eyes and see them, they're just like, they've already moved to the next question. They haven't been listening at all. It's like they are the guru and they're making me do the inquiry. I said, we'll keep quiet now. I'm not sharing. But after a week or two, I just started feeling like although outwardly we are being quiet, But in the faces themselves, I was not seeing the light, you know, not seeing, it was seeming like outwardly quiet but inwardly noisier. So just an outer silence doesn't work, I feel. God has been very kind today because before I got into satsang, at about 3 o'clock or something, I took some medicine also. And I was wondering whether today's satsang will be just silent and I'll just listen to all of you because everything seemed to be clogged and tissues were being used. And but by His grace, He's blessed this one to be able to share today. And I'm very grateful that that happened that way. But there's also a sense that I should go and rest this body now. And I'm very happy that all of you are here and together we have this opportunity to share His life, to make available the chance to meet this greatest gift that has been bestowed on humanity by Him for us to share with each other and then to share with all the brothers and sisters that we may meet in the world. And I'm very grateful to all of you that you've given me this opportunity to share that which for me is undoubtedly the highest thing, the highest holiness that can be spoken about. And may I always remember that satsang is as important to be heard here as it is to be heard by all of you. It's as much for this one as it is for all of you. And may there never be any pride that this one is some guru or master who is accomplished and is sharing with those who need to hear it, or some stupid notion like that. Thank you all so much. Bless you.